My wife cheated on me with our accountant, and now they're both claiming rights to our $500, $0 inheritance. This betrayal turned into a legal war with hidden motives I never saw coming. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation where my wife, Emily, would betray me so openly, and honestly, I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this. It all started with some small signs, little things that didn't add up. Emily, who used to be so attentive and loving, suddenly became distant, distracted. She'd brush off my questions, give half-hearted excuses about work stress or needing me time. I noticed her phone was always glued to her hand, and she would hide it whenever I got too close. I brushed it off at first, convincing myself it was just her way of dealing with the pressure from her job as a real estate agent. But then came the night I saw her. Phone light up with a message from Mike, her accountant, something I'd never paid much attention to before. She'd always been friendly with him, but that night when I casually glanced at her phone, I saw a text that made my stomach drop. It wasn't just normal work talk, it was flirty, intimate even. She called him babe and said she missed their secret rendezvous. I froze. My mind raced. I couldn't believe it. My wife Emily was cheating on me with our accountant Mike. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started digging. I checked her email, her social media, her bank statements. Nothing screamed cheating at first, but then I saw charges on our joint account, mysterious dinners, hotel bookings, and a series of payments to some shady online site I'd never heard of. It all pointed to her sneaking around behind my back. I was furious, but mostly I felt betrayed by her, by myself for not seeing it sooner. One afternoon, I decided I'd had enough of the hiding. I waited until she was out shopping, then I went through her things. I found her diary, an honest-to-God confession of her feelings for Mike, how she'd fallen into this affair, and how she was planning to leave me once she had enough money to start fresh. That was a punch to the gut. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, was planning her escape using my own money and her lies. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to plan my next move carefully. I didn't want her to spin some bullshit story, so I decided to gather evidence. I set up a few hidden cameras around the house, especially in her office and the bedroom. I also started recording her phone calls, which I could do without her knowing. I needed proof that I could use to confront her, but also to protect myself if things got ugly legally. The more I learned, the angrier I became. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about how she'd been manipulating me, lying to my face, all while she was plotting her escape with our inheritance. $500, zero that I'd worked hard for. Our savings, her inheritance from her family, all of it. She was ready to throw everything away for some quick sex with Mike, and she didn't care about the damage she'd leave behind. I started to realize that Emily wasn't just a cheater, she was a master manipulator. She had the charm, the lies, the fake tears when she wanted sympathy, and the coldness when she thought I wasn't looking. Tell me she loved me, but her actions screamed otherwise. The betrayal cut deep, and I knew I had to act fast before she took everything and left me with nothing but heartbreak. I remember sitting in my office that night, staring at the evidence I'd collected, feeling a mix of shock, rage, and helplessness. How did I miss all those signs? How did I become the guy who got played? It was like waking up from a nightmare, and I knew my life was about to change forever. I didn't want to just kick her out or divorce her. I wanted justice, and I was going to get it, no matter what it took. The next morning, I woke up with that sick feeling deep in my stomach. I knew I couldn't just sit around and let her keep pulling the wool over my eyes. I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed to be strategic. Emily was the type of woman who'd spin a story faster than I could keep up, especially if she sensed I was onto her. So I waited until she was in the shower. Then I took out my phone and played the recordings I'd made of her phone calls and her secret conversations with Mike. Hearing her voice, that fake sweetness, the lies she told him about loving him and wanting to leave me, it made my blood boil. I'd never felt so betrayed. I sat there, listening to her tell Mike about how she couldn't wait to get away, how she was tired of pretending to be happy, and how she was planning to take the inheritance and start her new life with him. I realized I had enough evidence now to blow this whole thing wide open. When she finally came out of the shower, I decided it was time. I called her into the living room, kept my voice steady but firm. I told her I knew everything about the affair, the money, the lies. Her face twisted in shock for a second, then she went into full-blown denial. "You're crazy," she spat. "You're just jealous. Mike and I are just friends. You're overthinking it." She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was winning. I could see right through her bullshit now. I played the recordings on my phone, watching her face drain of color. Her excuses about how it was just sex, and it didn't mean anything, sounded hollow. I told her I had enough evidence to take this to the lawyer and that I was considering a divorce, one that she wouldn't see coming. She tried to deny everything, but I didn't let her. I told her I knew about her plans to take the inheritance, how she was planning to leave me with nothing, and how her lies had finally caught up with her. That's when she got bitchy, really bitchy. She started calling me paranoid, insecure, and accused me of spying on her because I was scared of losing her. She threw in some tears, claiming she loved me, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd lied her way into my life and now wanted to walk away with my money. That realization hit me hard. I'd been blind, but now I saw clearly. The emotional roller coaster was brutal. I felt rage, heartbreak, and a deep sense of betrayal all at once. I'd never thought I'd be in this position, married to someone who'd cheat and lie so openly. I kept replaying her words, her fake tears, her empty promises. Deep down, I knew I had to act fast before she took everything and disappeared. I couldn't let her get away with this, especially not the money she was scheming to steal from me. I was furious at her, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. Maybe now I could finally see her for who she was and start figuring out my next move. I told her I was going to consult a lawyer and that she should prepare for the consequences. She snapped at me, calling me possessive and paranoid, typical Emily. But I wasn't about to let her manipulate her way out of this one. I kept calm, told her I'd give her a chance to explain herself, but I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I knew I'd have to fight for what's mine, my money, my dignity, and maybe even my self-respect. I didn't know exactly how, but I was determined. That day I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me, especially not with her lies and her lies about love that she'd used to keep me in the dark. I'd build my case, gather more proof if needed, and get ready for what was coming. I could feel it in my bones. This wasn't just about a cheating wife anymore. It was about justice, and I was going to get it no matter what. After that confrontation, I spent the next few days in a whirlwind of preparation. I knew I couldn't just rely on the recordings and her diary alone. Emily was cunning. She'd probably try to spin her way out of everything or lie her way through it. So I contacted a lawyer I found through a recommendation, someone who specialized in marital disputes and inheritance issues. I needed to understand my rights and what I could do to protect myself and my assets. The lawyer, Mark, was straightforward and no-nonsense. He listened to everything I told him, reviewed the evidence I had collected, and then laid out the options. His advice was clear. Emily's plans to take the inheritance or claim rights to the money could be challenged legally, especially if I could prove she was trying to manipulate me into giving her a share through false pretenses or duress. He also warned me that her claims about love and wanting a fresh start were just her way of covering her tracks. I realized I had to act fast. I started gathering more evidence: bank statements, emails, her texts with Mike, even some suspicious phone logs she'd overlooked. I also installed a few more hidden cameras, this time in the bedroom and her home office, to document her movements and conversations. I wasn't about to let her get the upper hand. My gut told me she was planning something, maybe even trying to hide her tracks before I could use them against her. Meanwhile, Emily's attitude shifted. She became more manipulative, more aggressive even. She'd throw tantrums, call me paranoid, accuse me of spying on her, and insist she was innocent. She told me I was overreacting, that she loved me, and that I was ruining everything because I didn't trust her. But I saw right through her. I knew her game. She was trying to make me doubt myself to get me to back down. But I wasn't going to let her play that game anymore. I was tired of her lies, her bullshit, and her constant gaslighting. One afternoon, she tried to guilt-trip me into dropping everything. She sat me down, looked at me with those big, fake tears she always used to manipulate people, and said, "You're just jealous because I still look good and you're afraid of losing me. I love you, but I won't be your prisoner." That's when I finally snapped. I told her that her love was a lie, that I wasn't going to be played anymore, and that I was done with her manipulations. I told her if she wanted to keep lying, she could do it somewhere else because I wasn't buying it. That night I stayed up late, reviewing everything I'd gathered. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because I finally saw her for what she was: selfish, manipulative, and unfaithful. Dread because I knew this was only the beginning. The legal fight, the fights over the inheritance, her accusations. I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went, but I was ready. I wasn't going to let her walk away with my money or my life. If she thought she could lie her way out of this, she was dead wrong. I decided I'd file for divorce, but more than that, I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. I wanted her to realize that betrayal comes with consequences. I knew I'd have to be smart, patient, and ruthless if I wanted to win this war. She might have thought she could manipulate her way through, but I was determined to fight for what's mine, for my dignity, and for the truth. And when I looked at her, sitting there with that smug expression, I knew I'd finally turn the tables and make her regret ever crossing me. The day I filed for divorce was like finally cutting loose a heavy weight I'd been carrying for too long. I knew it wasn't just about ending the marriage. It was about exposing her lies and protecting what was left of my sanity and my assets. Emily, of course, responded with her typical bitchy attitude. She accused me of destroying her life, called me a jealous, insecure fool, and claimed I was just trying to control her. She spun stories about how she loved me, how she'd never cheat, and how I was just paranoid because I didn't trust her. But I'd heard enough of her lies. I made sure to get everything documented: her texts, her emails, her phone records, all the evidence I'd collected. I wanted to be airtight. My lawyer started preparing the legal documents, and I told Emily she'd better get ready for a fight because I wasn't backing down. The inheritance was on the line, and I was determined to keep what was legally mine. I also hired a private investigator to follow her around, just to make sure she wasn't planning to run or hide anything. In the meantime, Emily's true colors kept showing. She was furious, throwing tantrums, screaming at me, trying to guilt-trip me into dropping the case. She accused me of ruining her life because I was jealous and possessive. She told me she was innocent, that she'd never cheat on me, and that I was just too insecure to see how much she loved me. I knew better. I could see her desperation, the way she clung to her lies, and I knew she was panicking. One night she stormed into my office, her face red with anger. She spat, "You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, I've got a few tricks up my sleeve too." I just looked at her, tired but resolute. I told her that her tricks wouldn't save her now, that her lies had been exposed, and I was going to make sure she paid for what she'd done. I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this. The most shocking moment came when she tried to threaten me with her rights to the inheritance. She claimed that since she was his wife, she deserved half of everything, including the inheritance. I was stunned. She knew damn well that she had no legal claim to it, but she was trying to play the victim card. I'd already consulted my lawyer about this, and he assured me that she had no legal standing to claim a share of the inheritance if I could prove she was trying to manipulate me into giving her a settlement or taking advantage of her marriage. That's when I realized her plan wasn't just about cheating, it was about greed, power, and control. She'd been planning her escape for months, using her lies and her charm to keep me in the dark while she schemed to get her hands on my money. I'd been a fool to trust her, but now I saw her for what she was: a selfish, manipulative woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted, especially if it meant stabbing me in the back. I stayed calm through all her accusations, even when she called me jealous or crazy. My focus was on protecting my rights and making sure she didn't get away with this. I knew I had enough evidence to push the case forward, and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. Emily's tantrums only strengthened my resolve. I realized that I wasn't just fighting for money. I was fighting to reclaim my dignity from a woman who'd betrayed me in the worst way possible. I was tired of being the victim, and I was about to turn the tables. The legal battle started to take shape, and I could feel the pressure mounting. Emily's attitude grew more erratic, which I expected. She'd always been a bitchy, manipulative woman, but now she was desperate. She'd show up unannounced, scream at me in front of friends and family, trying to paint herself as the innocent victim. It was a classic move, trying to turn everyone against me, claiming I was the one ruining her life. But I had the evidence and I knew her game. My lawyer, Mark, kept pushing forward, filing motions and gathering more proof of her scheming. We uncovered some bank transfers that showed she'd been secretly withdrawing money, large sums from our joint account, all under the guise of expenses or gifts. But in reality, she was funneling money to herself and her side plans. She'd even opened a secret account, one I didn't know about, where she was socking away cash for her escape. It was clear she was planning to leave, and she thought she could do it with my money. Every day, I felt more betrayed. I'd worked hard for that inheritance, and now she was trying to steal it, using her lies, her fake tears, and her bitchy attitude to manipulate her way into a payout. I wasn't about to let that happen. I pushed for a legal injunction to freeze her assets and prevent her from moving money around. I wanted her to believe I was serious, that I'd do whatever it took to keep what was mine. Meanwhile, she kept playing the victim, crying, saying she was misunderstood, claiming I was controlling her. She'd scream at me, call me names, accuse me of being paranoid. But I saw through it all. I knew her game. She was trying to make me doubt myself, to make me feel guilty. I didn't buy her bullshit anymore. I knew she'd been lying to everyone, including her own family, about how she loved me and how she was forced into this affair. The truth was, she'd been planning her escape for months, and I was just catching up. One night she showed up at my house, furious and crying. Her face was red, her makeup smudged. She begged me to drop the case, to let her go, saying she'd changed, that she loved me, that she'd stop seeing Mike if I just forgave her. I looked at her, exhausted and angry, and told her that her words meant nothing anymore. I told her I wasn't going to be manipulated into giving her a dime, especially not after everything she'd done. Her tears turned into a scream and she spat at me. "You're just jealous because I still look good and you're too insecure to keep me." That was the moment I realized she'd crossed every line. She wasn't just cheating. She was trying to steal my inheritance, destroy my reputation, and walk away with everything. I knew I had to be smart. I made arrangements to have her served with the legal papers, and I prepared for her to fight me in court. I also started gathering witnesses, friends and family who could testify to her behavior, her lies, and her manipulations. I wanted to make sure the judge saw her true character, not the victim she was pretending to be. The most frustrating part was her claiming she had rights to the inheritance because we're married. She insisted that because she was my wife, she was entitled to half of everything, including the money I'd worked so hard for. I knew that was a lie, marriage or not. She had no claim if I could prove she'd been scheming behind my back. But her claims added fuel to the fire, making the legal fight more complicated. I was prepared to fight her for every penny. I wasn't going to let her walk away with my money or my life. At this point, I was sick of her lies, her bitchy attitude, and her manipulations. All I wanted was to put an end to this nightmare. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was determined. I'd fought for everything I had, and I wasn't about to let her destroy it all with her greed and her lies. I was finally seeing her for what she truly was, a selfish, manipulative woman who'd do anything to get her hands on my money. And I was ready to make her pay for every single lie. The court date finally arrived, and I was more ready than I'd ever been. All the evidence I'd gathered, texts, emails, bank statements, the recordings, was laid out clearly. Emily's attorney tried every trick in the book to discredit me, to paint her as the wronged wife, but it was clear she was desperate. Witnesses testified about her manipulative behavior, her lies, and her secret plans to run with the inheritance. Her own diary, which I found hidden in her closet, was the smoking gun admitting her intention to leave and take everything she could. As the judge listened, I felt a strange sense of relief. I had fought hard, stayed calm, and made sure my case was airtight. Emily's lawyer argued that she deserved her fair share, but I knew that was a lie. She'd betrayed me, lied to my face, and schemed to steal from me. The judge, after reviewing all the evidence, ruled in my favor. Emily was ordered to return the money she'd taken, and her claims to the inheritance were denied due to her deceit and manipulation. The aftermath was a whirlwind of emotions. Emily left the courthouse furious, screaming accusations and threats, but she knew she'd lost. I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and liberation. I had finally taken back control of my life. I filed for divorce, and it was finalized a few months later. Emily's bitchy streak didn't fade entirely, but she was no longer able to manipulate or threaten me. I moved on, slowly rebuilding my life and trust in myself. Looking back, I realized that betrayal isn't just about cheating, it's about the lies, the manipulations, the greed. Emily thought she could get away with everything, using her charm and her lies to take what wasn't hers. But I learned that patience, evidence, and a clear head win out in the end. I lost a lot in this process: trust, my marriage, some illusions, but I gained clarity. I now see people for who they really are, and I know how to protect myself better. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone in a similar situation, it's this: don't ignore the signs, trust your instincts, and gather proof. People can lie and manipulate, but the truth always comes out. And sometimes, standing up for yourself is the only way to reclaim what's yours, whether it's your dignity, your money, or your peace of mind. I'm still healing, but I'm stronger now. And I know I'll never let someone betray me like that again.